Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching WION World as One with me, Alison LaGrange. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines. Xi Jinping urges steps to protect lives as China reopens. It's the first reaction from the Chinese president amid the COVID case surge in China and announcements that numbers would not be released. Taiwan says China deployed 71 warplanes in the weekend military exercises around the island, further adding that 43 of these airplanes crossed the median Strait line in the last 24 hours. British consultancy Centre for Economics and Business Research warns of global economic recession in 2023. Raises concerns on China's COVID policy and a lack of growth-oriented policies in the UK. US and UK embassies issue advisory asking staffers to not visit the Marriott Hotel in Islamabad after receiving intel of a possible terror attack during the holiday season. European Union leaders condemn Taliban's latest ban on women from working in NGOs, says the move amounts to erasing women from public spaces. Golf legend Kathy Whitworth passes away at the age of 83 while celebrating Christmas with her family and friends. Her 88 LPGA victories are the most by any player. Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. Xi Jinping has called for urgent steps to protect lives as China reopens. It's the first reaction from the Chinese president amid a surge in cases after China said it would not be reporting numbers. Xi urged officials to take steps to feasibly protect people's lives. State broadcaster CCTV quoted Xi as saying, "We should launch the patriotic health campaign in a more targeted way and fortify a community line of defense for epidemic prevention." Today, too, China has reported no new COVID-19 deaths. The country's National Health Commission has stopped publishing daily COVID-19 numbers. This despite Beijing struggling with a surge in COVID-19 infections. The decision to scrap the daily virus count comes amid concerns that the country's blooming wave of infections is not being accurately reflected in official statistics. China has also narrowed the criteria by which COVID-19 fatalities were counted. Under China's new definition of COVID deaths, only those who die of respiratory failure are counted. Those who die of pre-existing conditions exacerbated by the virus will not be counted. Health authorities have now warned that infections would hit an apex in early January, and the wave of infections would last for 3 months. China, which has ended long quarantines, compulsory testing, is now experiencing its first ever national COVID wave, with hospitals in the country being overwhelmed. Meanwhile, people in China now have started living with the virus. Beijing and Shanghai, which are China's two biggest cities, moved closer to living with COVID-19.
有做好跟疫情共存的准备，毕竟封闭也不是长久之计。我们可能之后春节的时候也会再爆发一波嘛，那时候还是要共存一下嘛。
Taiwan has reported China's largest ever incursion in its air defense zone. Taipei says 71 Chinese Air Force aircrafts took part in the military drills near the island over the weekend. Taiwan further adds that at least 43 of these crossed over the Taiwan Strait's median line in the last 24 hours. The median line, which is an unofficial buffer between the two sides that lies within the defense zone. China, which claims Taiwan as its own territory, said that it conducted strike drills in the sea and airspace around Taipei. Beijing says the drills were in response to what it considered provocation from Taipei and Washington after a new U.S. defense authorization law was passed. The law aims to bolster Taiwan's defense capabilities against threats from China. Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, meanwhile, reiterated the need to boost Taiwan's defense capacity. She emphasized on how it was imperative to be united against China's growing aggression. However, the Taiwanese president made no mention of the latest military drills by China. The Taiwanese defense released a statement in which it said that the actions of the Chinese Communist Party highlighted its mentality of using force to resolve differences, which undermines regional peace and stability. Tensions surrounding Taiwan have increased substantially this year after U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei in August.
Madam President, Madam Speaker, please return to your seats.
The global economy surpassed $100 trillion for the first time in 2022, but it is likely to stall in 2023 as policymakers continue their fight against high borrowing costs and soaring inflation. These are the findings of the British consultancy Centre for Economics and Business Research in its annual report. China is now not set to overtake the US as the world's largest economy, at least until the year 2036 at the earliest, which is 6 years later than expected. The CEBR blames this on flaws in China's COVID policy. It says the economic war between the West and China will end up hurting China's economy. As per the report, the UK is to remain the world's sixth largest economy. France will be seventh, but Britain is no longer set to grow faster than European peers due to what the report calls an absence of growth-oriented policies and the lack of a clear vision of its role outside the European Union. India will become the third $10 trillion economy in the year 2035 and the world's third largest by the year 2032. Experts say the findings are more pessimistic than the latest forecast from the International Monetary Fund. The IMF warned in October that more than a third of the world economy will contract, and there is a 25% chance of global GDP growing by less than 2% in 2023, which it defines as a global recession. Now, for more on this story, we were earlier joined by Klisman Murati, who is an economist. Let's listen in.
We have to realize that the world in 2023 has many different factors that will impact it. According to us, three of the biggest ones will be geopolitics, globalization, and societal change, which will have a big impact on the economy and on recession likelihood. Geopolitical risk, as we can see, is a big one, and it's very obvious to see. With globalization, we see that is also a result of COVID and also supply chain malfunctions, inflation due to the geopolitical risks. And the resulting outcome of that will be societal changes, mass migration of people, dysfunctional societies, and also more stress for businesses and people as they come into the new year. So it's not looking too good for the beginning of 2023. It's very, very difficult because in times of such convergence of these three major factors, any policy responses needs to be in unison with other countries for them to be successful. If each country takes on their own policies, which may be counter to the wider benefit of global cohesion, then we'll find many different fractious scenarios happening in the world. So a rise of interest rates in America, for example, causes ripple effects across the world. So it's hard for central banks to coordinate their policies, especially when things like geopolitical risk are out of their control and they can't mitigate for such circumstances. So it's very difficult for any real policy changes to impact the world in a long-term way, I think.
The Boxing Day sale, a day that most of the UK shoppers wait for. It is also a treat for the sellers as they witness a sharp splurge in businesses. But this year, Boxing Day sales are projected to see a marked dip. Now, according to research data released by Barclaycard Payments, shoppers are expected to spend 4% less on Boxing Day and during the post-Christmas sales this year. The dip in sales predictions is being attributed to the rising cost of living and inflationary pressures. Now, Barclaycard Payments found that an average of shoppers are likely to spend around $243 in the post-Christmas sales period. The average figure is $19 less compared with 2021. Nevertheless, it still represents a busy end to 2022. The projections indicate that technology retailers are expected to particularly benefit from shoppers seeking a bargain. Personal technology items were the most sought after by those questioned about the post-Christmas sales. Food and drink items are also expected to be popular. The research results further state that a growing number of shoppers are expected to turn to reselling sites to buy items after Christmas. Almost 28% of shoppers are planning to use multiple platforms to offload unwanted Christmas presents. The UK is marred with two-digit inflation numbers at present. With soaring energy prices, the country's inflation rate has crossed 10% mark. The impact of the rising cost of living can be seen on a daily basis, now with industry workers staging walkouts on a regular basis. Shifting focus now, for the first time since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran has just witnessed its longest-running anti-government protests. It has been 100 days that the Iranian women are leading the voice of dissent. It all started with the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, the woman in custody of the morality police. But over the last 100 days, it has become nothing short of a revolution. From hijab to human rights, the government has been cornered on a vast range of issues. Or, as the protesters call it, women, life and freedom. In our next report, we are recapping what has unfolded in the past few months, something that has shaken the Ebrahim Raisi regime. A day after the Taliban banned women from working in non-governmental organizations, 3 foreign aid groups, including Save the Children, have said that they are suspending their humanitarian programs in Afghanistan.
The Taliban have decreed that women are not allowed to work for international non-governmental organizations and national non-governmental organizations. As we have got 5,000 staff and community, including community volunteers in Afghanistan. Almost half of those are women. So essentially, if we were to keep working, we'd have to turn up for work tomorrow with half our workforce missing.
Citing similar reasons, the Norwegian Refugee Council and Care International in a joint statement said that they are suspending their programs until they receive more clarity on the administration's order. The Taliban administration on Saturday ordered all the local and international NGOs to stop their female employees from coming to work until further notice. Now, they said that the new diktat was justified because some women did not adhere to the Taliban's interpretation of Islamic dress code for women. The move has sparked international outrage. The EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said that he was appalled by the decision and that the decree amounts to erasing women from public spaces. He further urged the Taliban to lift their decision immediately. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also said that the Taliban is trying to sentence Afghanistan's women to a dark future without opportunity.
There are going to be costs if this is not reversed, if this is not changed. I'm not going to detail them today, but we will pursue them in coordination with allies and partners. And I can tell you as well that any prospect that the Taliban seeks for improved relations with the world, with the international community, which is something that they want and we know that they need, that is not going to happen if they continue on this course.
Qatar has also expressed concern over the order. The ministry stressed the need to respect women's right to work and further urged the Taliban to review its decision. Other Muslim countries that have echoed similar concerns are Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. The latest restriction comes less than a week after the Taliban banned women from attending universities. Experts say that both of these decisions will undermine the Taliban's efforts to gain international recognition and clear sanctions that have severely hampered Afghanistan's economy. Amid protests, clashes and blockades in the region, Serbia has deployed its army chief at its border with Kosovo. The general made the announcement himself amid strained relations between the two nations. Kosovo declared independence from Serbia in 2008, but Belgrade has refused to recognize the move. It also encourages the remaining 120,000 Serbs to defy Pristina's authority. Hundreds of ethnic Serbs, outraged over the arrest of an ex-police officer, set up roadblocks on the 10th of December in the Serb-majority northern Kosovo. The blockade paralyzed traffic through 2 border crossings. Serbian army chief acknowledged that the situation remains complicated in the region. He argued that the situation requires presence of the Serbian army along the border. The latest escalation in tensions came after Kosovo scheduled local elections in Serb-majority municipalities on the 18th of December, and the main Serb political party announced a boycott of the polls. Moreover, an ex-policeman suspected of involvement in attacks against ethnic Albanian police officers was arrested in Kosovo, and this outraged ethnic Serbs who erected the barricades along the border crossing. Moving on to some sports news now. After a 6-week pause for the 2022 World Cup, English Premier League action is back. 14 out of 20 teams will resume their league football on Boxing Day, just 8 days after the World Cup final in Qatar. Now, London sides Brentford and Tottenham Hotspur will kick off the day's action at the GTEC Community Stadium, before third place Newcastle take on Brendan Rodgers' Leicester City at the King Power Stadium. If the Magpies manage to win this match, they will move up to the second place, at least until Tuesday. Now, two of the traditional Big Four clubs will also be in action on Boxing Day. First, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, fresh off a defeat at the hands of Manchester City in the EFL Cup, would hope to get back to winning ways when they travel to the Midlands to face Unai Emery's Aston Villa. Liverpool are 6th in the league and 7 points off 4th-placed Spurs. Anything apart from a win would further deepen the crisis and will be anything than a smooth sail for the Reds against Villa, who are on a 3-game winning streak in the league. The day is scheduled to end with a cracker of a London derby when league leaders Arsenal welcome 16th placed West Ham United. The Gunners will be without their marquee summer signing, Gabriel Jesus, who underwent knee surgery. Despite that, there is a buzz around the Emirates that has not been felt for quite some time. After their best Premier League start, this is the first time they will be top at Christmas since the 2007 to 2008 season. All 7 teams to win 12 of their first 14 games have won the Premier League title. Another good omen for the Gunners is that the team that topped the table on Christmas Day have been champions in 10 of the past 13 seasons. With the second-place Manchester City not playing until the 28th of December at Leeds, victory would take the Gunners 8 points clear of the champions. And now let's take a look at what's happening in the world of entertainment. Avatar, The Way of Water, sailed to the top of the box office in its second weekend, bringing in a strong $58 million in North America. James Cameron's latest film has made $253 million domestically in its first 10 days of release, compared to $212 million in the same stretch for the 2009's first Avatar, which would go on to become the highest-grossing film of all time. Globally, The Way of Water is already the third highest-grossing film released in 2022, bringing in $855 million.
I hear her heartbeat. She's so close.
Chris Rock will make history when he takes to the stage for a stand-up special on the 4th of March. Netflix announced that the comedian's show will mark its first ever live-stream global event. Rock will perform Chris Rock, A Selective Outrage in Baltimore, Maryland. This is Rock's second Netflix stand-up special. His first, Chris Rock, Tambourine, debuted in February of 2018 at the 2022 Oscars. While presenting the Best Documentary Feature Award, the comedian made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head. The joke did not go down well with Will Smith, and he went onto stage to slap Rock. Although it appeared to be a joke at first, Smith returned to his seat and continued to hurl abuses at Rock. And with that, it's time for us to take a short break. Don't go away. WION continues on the other side with plenty more global news and updates.
Officials, right? Arab?